It really what it comes down to is squeeze the piss out of that handguard. How do you hold your rifle? And really what I'm getting at is, how does your support hand grip the handguard? Well, we see a lot of issues with that, and usually just minor little tweaks can fix a lot of stuff through recoil. So one thing we know and we're gonna cover is that the goal is that when the sights lift and return, it comes back to that same index point. Two, we don't wanna have to, when the gun goes off, have to pull it back to that same spot every time. That's a lot of extra work, and if we can avoid it, we need to. And then lastly, simply where we place our hand and how we do it can affect all of that stuff for us and either make it harder or easier. So before we get into how we hold the handguard, right? We do need to do a little bit of a refresher on just basics of holding the rifle. And the thing we like to say is flat, right? Flat shoulder, hold the gun, and wedge it together. So we're kind of doing a little, you can reference back to our old video that was like BAER's buttstocks and Battlestar Galactica or something like that, whatever, but we really covered that buttstock and why it's important. We'll do a quick little rundown, right? So first things first, and we tell a lot of people this, and we're gonna show you here in a second. The gun will do most of the work for you. It will do a lot of the work for you. As long as you have that flat shoulder, when you put that buttstock up there and it's a nice solid firing platform for the gun to shoot off of, you might be shocked how that sight will return back to the same point. Everything you do after that with this support hand is kind of like a bonus. So let's look at that real quick. So, turn my dot on. All right. So, getting in here. Again, shoulder's extremely important. And the one thing you want is a nice flat and wide so I can put that buttstock in there and it sits nice and well, right? Up here, it's gonna create a pivot point. So I just want it to be low enough so that line, because everything operates in line, that buffer tube generally is hitting into the shoulder somehow. And me personally, I like to cant the rifle over, cant and lift the shoulder up so I bring the sight to my eyes. That way it's a more natural fit in my shoulder. Now, doing this, what I'm gonna do is we got those 3 pasters up there. I'm gonna use the paster on the left for right now. And as you can see my support hand, I'm just barely gonna hold on to the handguard. And I'm gonna let this rifle solid wall for it to fire off of, and let's see what the sights do. So if I hold the gun, I'm gonna need my iPro for this. That was almost a disaster in the comments. All right, so if I hold that up, barely hold onto the handguard, and take that shot, the sight should come pretty much back to the same point. So when we look at that, we see I put my sights right about here, and we had a little bit offset just right there, right? But that's how much it comes back. There's not a whole lot of work that we got to do to make that happen. So we know with the support hand that everything is going to be right here. So all we're doing is we're minimizing how much it lifts, right, to come back to that same point and just feel a little bit more in control. So looking at that, covering some of the things with this, flat, hold, and wedge. Support hand, I know I'm gonna grip the piss out of it, and we're gonna see what happens here in a minute, but we'll get into it. Before we get on that, let's talk about a couple things just real quick about your stance in general. I like to be slightly more squared up than some people. I like to be a little bit more right here, whereas some people prefer to be a little bit more bladed, right? And that's completely fine. You can be bladed off like that, right? What we want to avoid is being too bladed. And by that, if my feet and hips are pointing off to the right and I'm shooting like this, can I fire like that? Yeah, I can, but I'm not getting that good impact on the buttstock. Most of that pressure's on the inside versus flattening out around it to, again, have that good lift and return as it comes back. So square up a little bit, right? Bring your buttstock, whether you like a little closer to the neckline or a little farther out in the shoulder, that's all fine. And I like to just tilt my sight back in towards my eyes. One more time, as I do that and I have a flat shoulder, again, I can barely hold on to that handguard just like that, line it up. And I know those shots are gonna be pretty close because what I see is the sight lift and return and come back to the same point. Not higher, not lower, not left, not right. That's the first thing that we need to do.
What is the most common mistake that you have to correct when it comes to form and how to hold the rifle?
That's a good question. I'm sure you guys out there have seen it too. I'm sure you have too, Tom, but you see some people, they're all leaned back a lot, you know, they're canted over, they're cranking the head, you know, and they're leaning over into the gun and all this other stuff versus staying nice and squared up. Now, again, it doesn't have to be perfect. You can blade a little bit, but generally speaking, you know, a good stance. We see this stuff a lot. We see the people put the gun up like this and they go here and then they want to drop their head to the side like this into the gun and their head's all weird and they start blading back like this and their hips sink forwards, right? So we see this, I'm sure you guys have seen it. So head over to the side, everything else. And then what we see a lot of times is this hand just not really doing anything. The support hand, like they're just barely holding on to the gun. So a lot of it is that excessive blading and the cranking over of the head. And it's uncomfortable for them and it's uncomfortable for us to watch, you know, to see somebody shoot like that. And then a lot of times because of that, when that head starts to really lean over to the side, what are they forgetting to do? Because they're so focused on just trying to see, you know what I mean? And like find their sights, that this shoulder forgets to do its job, so it relaxes. And then when this shoulder kind of relaxes down, especially when they're pulling in, it just makes it worse and worse and worse. And they start leaning and getting over the gun more and blading more and more and more. So the big thing, the big fix for that is, you know, big chest, good hips, fit the gun up here and find that spot in the shoulder, then raise your shoulder up to your eyes so that you can hold on to it. Simple as that. So as you know, Vertx is a sponsor of ours and we appreciate it quite a bit. So one thing Vertx is known for is their bags. And they just released some new bags called the Siege line. So this is their 15-liter Siege. And one thing that I really like about these, as with all their bags, is that inside they've got the hook on the inside of the bags. And they sell all the different little attachments and like a modular system. So for organization, whether it's a holster, mag carrier, med pouches, whatever. You can put all that through the bag. So this guy right here, 15-liter sling, obviously carry cover on front that expands. Your main compartment, like with anything, is gonna have your slots for your laptop, organization, and then also you got your Premier body armor. The other side that they came out with is the 25-liter, which these bags are kind of made more for the outdoorsy / military, you know, kind of space. Anybody can buy it. But again, it's just a larger version of that, 2 straps, and then we've got the same expandable flap on the front to carry what you need, MOLLE panels, lots of Velcro, lots and lots of Velcro options. I'll move this down real quick. And then again, your open space down here, you can attach those systems like we're talking about, the ballistic panels they call them, and then you've got your sleeves for your body armor, laptops, and everything else. Nalgene pockets on the side, and good to go. We're super appreciative to Leupold. Been working with them for a long time, so obviously go check them out and buy their stuff. There's one thing you might not have known is that they do have a discount, right? Former law enforcement, military, first responder, current or former, all that stuff. Hit them up, they give a pretty nice discount. Leupold DP Pro, I don't think you can beat it with quality and clarity of the glass and just that wide field of view, right? There's really nothing else on the market that's that clear, doesn't have distortion or some weird blue tint or like a slight magnification other than this optic. So looking at that, and then the last thing, and it's more of a question for y'all. For those of y'all that are watching right now, LCO2, right? We know that's coming out next year, hopefully. I've said it multiple times. I've said I've seen it and all those things. We're pretty excited about it. If there was one thing about a red dot optic that's most valuable to you, other than reliability, durability, right? What would that be? Is it the size of the window? Is it reticle options? Is it the field of view that you have? Is it the color of the reticle? You know, what kind of options would you want? What's that number one thing outside of durability and ruggedability, whatever that word is. You know what I'm talking about. And check out Leupold.com. They got a lot of cool shit out right now. New shirts, hats, sunglasses, all kinds of crap. So one thing you might have heard is pull the gun into your shoulder, right? I'm sure that's usually one of the first things people hear when they talk about holding a rifle. Pull it into your shoulder nice and tight. Yes and no, okay? So the issues we see with pulling the gun into the shoulder is that the more people do it, the more that sight starts kicking around. And if you're a right-handed shooter, especially, it starts to go off to the right and settle to the right, and you got to pull it back. So when it comes to pulling the shoulder or pulling into our shoulder, think about it like this. Which way does recoil go on the gun? It goes this way, right? So why would I pull in the direction that the gun is reciprocating or recoiling? If I'm gonna counter recoil or manage recoil, wouldn't I put pressure in the opposite direction? You know what I'm saying? So when people are saying, hey, pull the gun into your shoulder nice and tight and pull the gun in hard and all this other stuff, what they mean is, yes, do that. However, this shoulder has to be locked into place. It's gotta be rock solid. It's gotta be that solid firing platform for the gun to shoot off of. And the downside of that is people get so focused on pulling the gun into the shoulder this way that they forget about the shoulder itself. And then we start seeing all that blading and that craning of the neck and the head and everything else. So, and then we see those sights start to go up and to the right, okay? Now, the reason that's happening is because we forget about the back shoulder here. What happens? It relaxes and that pressure goes off. Instead of all around it, it's on the inside edge. The gun's gonna take that path of least resistance and kick out to the side. So if you're gonna pull the gun into your shoulder, simply just make sure that shoulder is nice, big, and flat, and it's not gonna move anywhere when I do it. Because as soon as this happens, then we're gonna start seeing problems. So, me personally, I don't really pull the gun into the shoulder. Instead, when we say flat, hold, and wedge, I just think about taking these 2 points of contact, my shoulder and my hand, and just kind of going boop, right? Just kind of tighten it up a little bit and firming it up within those 2 points. So am I pulling in slightly? Maybe the littlest bit. But really, as I flat shoulder, I hold the handguard, really I'm kind of pressing the shoulder forward just slightly into that front palm. So I know I've got that nice and hard contact and we're good to go. And that gun's gonna stay fixed between those 2 points. And it's not gonna change as we start shooting. So now let's go ahead and get into the whole point of this video, right? Like, what is this support hand doing? We've said it several times. So first things first, let's talk about is how far out do I put my hand on the handguard? Well, a long time ago, like when I first got in the military, they told us always get your hand all the way out as far as you can, right? Buttstock all the way out, put your hand out as far as you can, and that'll help like manage the recoil, right? Not so much, you know what I mean? Like it didn't work for me very well that way. It works for some people, but again, go back to the people who shoot the fastest, most accurate shooters and the best shooters. That's not really how they're doing it, right? Max Leograndis is a great example. So looking at that, first thing is, well, where do I put my hand on the handguard, okay? Well, if I shoot a pistol and I hold the pistol just like this, that's where I want to hold the gun. That same grip and that same distance and way I hold the pistol is the same place I'm going to hold, and my left hand's going to do that, the support hand, is going to grab onto the handguard itself for the rifle. So that's the spot we go to. Too far out and we start to see over excessive blading like this. Some people like that, right? But I don't know, I'm not the tallest guy in the world, so it doesn't really work for me. Maybe it does for other people, but everybody's a little bit different, okay? Now let's talk about our hand itself. So some of y'all have seen like the over-exaggerated C-clamp that was popular, you know, back in the day, especially during the mag pull video times. And then it kind of moved to getting more on the side of the gun, so our palm is impacting on the side. And then some people prefer to be a little bit more underneath. Now, there's kind of pros and cons to all of it, right? So let's start with the C-clamp. So when we look at this, well, let me go back, dude. First of all, you can point your index finger. You can do what's called a rope grip, thumb over the top. You can put your thumb to the side. None of this stuff matters, okay? Whatever you find most comfortable works for you, that's all fine. But let's talk about the actual placement of the hand is what I mean. So that C-clamp, we tend to come up over the top like this. You might have seen that before, where the thumb reaches around to the opposite side and kind of pinches there. And we hold the gun just like this, right? So when we get too up over the top like that, honestly, it's not good. It doesn't help for shit, okay? It really does nothing for you. And the reason is because as soon as my elbow starts to come up like that, my shoulder and my scapula and everything's out of alignment. It's not packed, it's not tight, it's not doing what it's supposed to do. It's in kind of an unnatural position. So you're actually pretty weak in all those directions. And that's fine if you've got like a comp on your gun and shooting, certain kind of ammo and it's all dialed in just right. But that's gonna get old after about 1 to 2 minutes, right? And the shoulder's gonna be exhausted. So yeah, when that was popular, we got clearing houses and doing stuff in training, and the guys that were doing this, that shit ended real quick, because about 2 rooms in there, the arms are tired and they're like posted up on the side. You're like, yeah, man, you gotta keep going, you know what I mean? It's just gonna wear your shoulder out sooner. Now, it kind of moved from this, that C-clamp, right? Over-exaggerated C-clamp up top to be more on the side of the gun. So you take the middle of our palm, put it right on the side here, and kind of hold right there, okay? And that's okay too. Now, the downside of this is sometimes, not everybody, some guys got it down and it works perfect. But some people, when they do that, they find themselves pushing into the gun a little bit or pulling it back this way. So left and right, it can get a little weird. You know what I mean? And again, that's not everybody. It's just some observations that we've seen for some people. So I don't really like that, and I don't feel like I can get a good grip on that gun and really put the pressure into it like I do with a pistol. The other thing too is that sometimes when you do that, you might notice your sights lift up and to the right, and then they come back to where you're looking, right? Or where you want them to be. Or they go up and to the right, and they tend to settle off to the right slightly, and you feel like you have to pull it back. Fair enough. So finding that neutral spot in the middle where you're not pushing, you're not pulling, it's perfectly centered, and we're just squeezing that handguard, might be hard to find, right? Now the third one, which is kind of what I like to do, right? And again, tell us what you prefer down in the comments and explain why. I would actually love to hear it. Tom and I read those, right? Some of them are interesting. Some of them are actually really valuable and pretty cool. So with that said, I like to grip a little bit more under the gun. So I tend to be more under the gun here instead of up on the side. I just want that meat of my palm right on that top. What is that, like 10 o'clock, I think they call it, Tom? Just gripping right on top of that 10 o'clock. And the reason being is because I want these fingers right here to be able to pinch and that handguard as hard as possible and squeeze it into my palm on this side. And when I do that, right like that, and I feel that palm on there, I feel like the gun doesn't lift nearly as high, and it centers it up nice and easy. It doesn't kick off to the side, and I don't feel like I have to bring it back. It's a lot more predictable in how the gun recoils, okay? So let's look at that on a couple targets. We'll do the C-clamp first, then we'll do on the side of the gun, and then I'll get my normal grip under the gun where I'm just pinching it as much as I can. All right, so first things first, I'm just gonna use that same paster that we did earlier with the 4 shots on it, and I'm gonna use that one for the C-clamp. So the one on the right here, I'm gonna go ahead, get my hand up over the top like this. I want you to watch the muzzle and watch the gun through recoil. Stand by. Okay, so looking at that, here's what we kind of got. So the gun didn't kick up too bad, but it started settling left and right as it came back a little bit, right? And it seemed like I had to do a lot of corrections to get it back to where I wanted. I was constantly having to guide this thing back where I want versus it just kind of naturally coming to where I want. Make sense? So now let's look at the next one. So we'll do that on the middle guy. And this time, I'm gonna take my hand from the C-clamp and I'm just gonna get it a little bit more on the side, right? Straight on the side here, thumb still going over the top, and let's see what happens. Stand by. Cool. So that one felt better, right? And I was still able to get a decent little group right there. But again, with this one, I had to do a little bit of work, and I noticed it was starting to fight left and right, and I was having to fight against that and kind of keep it in the lines, if you know what I mean. So I'm having to really guide that sucker back, where if I don't have to do that, I don't want to. Now let's go to the third dot, and I'm just gonna get a little bit more under the rail and see how that works for me. So I'm gonna get a little bit more under the rail, and I'm gonna pinch this handguard pretty hard, right? So flat shoulder, here, pinch the handguard, stand by. Good. So that one was a lot more natural, it felt, as we did it. I had one little shot off to the side, but generally speaking, these 4 felt really, really good. And I think that was my last one, because as I finished, I started looking at Tom like an idiot. But this one felt better. It felt like I didn't have to do as much for that to happen. Let's do it one more time. Again, flat, hold, stand by. Good. So same thing, I can see my sight lifting and just kind of bouncing up and down just like this as it comes back on. So looking at that, so how does that translate into other stuff, right? And I'm sure you guys have heard predictive and reactive shooting. If you haven't, go check out Joel Park and Matt Pranka and Ben Stecker and those guys. They've got great explanations on it, but generally like predictive, you can think of as like a training tool. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hold the gun up. I know if I hold the gun that third way, when I pull the gun up and I just rip 2 rounds faster than I can react to my sights or react to the target, right? I'm predicting the next round will be there. I feel way more comfortable making that happen at multiple distances than I do doing it the other way. So using predictive as our training tool, if I kind of just hold on to this sucker like we just showed, and this time I'm gonna aim at the bottom of the target, like the lower C zone. Get it here, and I put that sucker up. Stand by. There we go, right? So, a couple of them not bad at the beginning, but if you see a couple of them went off, I just tightened it up a little bit, and what do we get? At those splits, we know that sight's pretty much coming back to where we want. You know what I'm saying? So like overall, not bad. I feel most comfortable holding it that way, and I get a better result and a more predictable result than being on the side of the gun or over the top. So with all that stuff said, what it comes down to is squeeze the piss out of that handguard. For all the stuff you're gonna do next time you go to the range, when you get that handguard up and your rifle up and you hold on to it, really think about squeezing that handguard and pinching it, driving that palm into the side and pulling the handguard into your palm. The more you do that, you might realize the better result you get. And it might feel weird at first, but it should become second nature. Like when you grab onto that sucker, you just grip it hard. Kind of like a baby grabs onto something, they have like all or nothing. It's kind of like the same thing. When I hold on to that handguard, I want to grip it as hard as I can, and that's going to minimize a lot of that extra bullshit that you get when you're shooting or where the dot goes. It's just going to tighten that up a little bit for you. So again, squeeze the handguard. All right, gear breakdown. So, a couple things for you. Same as most of the time, auto engineering, noise barriers, Leupold sunglasses. These are the Katmai's. Man, I freaking love these things. One thing I wanted to show you guys on the rifle was a buddy of mine has a new company. It's called Dark Matter. So these are basically shields that go over your lights to prevent that carbon from dirtying up your lens. You're like, you're looking at it, it's like, it's pretty obvious. Like, why hasn't anybody ever made that, right? Well, nobody did, and he's got it patented, and he's doing his thing, right? So Dark Matter Industries. He's an engineer. He's a great dude. He's a friend of mine. But with that, I think it's like, you really don't notice the light being, like, it's not cutting off much of your beam, really, if at all. But it protects that thing. You hardly ever have to clean the sucker after that. We get this a lot. See this guy right here? Oh man, it's backwards. Yeah, dude, it's backwards on purpose, the front side post. So if for some reason I need to flip it up, I can, and when I need to put it back, I just push it forward. It's a lot easier than having to like try and grab it here. It's just a one finger, you know, I can move my hand forward, pull that up, or I can push my thumb to put it back down. Just makes it easier, and I've always liked to do that. Other than that, Leupold LCO. I've been trying this little Unity riser out for a bit. A friend of mine gave that to me. It only raises it like, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch or something like that. Like, it ain't much. It's a small little bit. I'm not big on, you know, risers. I don't really use them, but I put this on there just to give it a shot and see what it's like. Friend gave it to me for free, figured why not. Overall, I don't hate it. For the rifle, standard, this is Ripcord Industries. Steve is doing a lot better now. He got some manufacturing stuff figured out. He's coming out with uppers here pretty soon, so we're looking forward to it, man. I'm excited for the day that you can buy a full rifle from him with our specs on it and everything else. So, other than that, man, range hat, our striped shirt, boop, go buy stuff. We love it. And then obviously our Wojtek belt, running the Staccato P. Been shooting this a lot recently. Really enjoy it. This is the True North drop on here. And one thing I want to show you is that if you have a True North drop, we're about to come out with this. You see this thing on the inside? This is to prevent the true north from shifting left and right, especially getting in and out of vehicles, right? A lot of cops have had this problem. And this thing will cut up and tear up the stitching. So we made this adapter plate that keeps it in place so we don't have to worry about that. So we'll have those available on the site soon. Yeah, and that'll fix that problem if you've ever had that or know anybody who has. Pouches, yeah, same old stuff. This is HSGI. And then Vertx, this is their trail slacker pant. It's a great pair of pants, man. We really like these. So check them out. I think it's Trail Slacker. They're super comfy and stretchy and all that crap. Ultras, and last but not least, since you guys like watches, this is Wesson. Tom's got one too. So me and Tom both have them. We bought them for all of our guys here at BAER Solutions as a gift. But our friend Chad owns this company. Wesson is for west, east, south, and north. He just mixed up the cardinal directions. This is an automatic movement, so no battery. You've got the alternate hour hand that's set to Greenwich Mean Time or whatever. And yeah, you got your date and all that stuff. NATO band, everything else. Cool thing about this is that mine is 001. So that was super cool that we got to get that from Chad. If you can, hit up Wesson Analog is the name of the company on social media. Mail Chad, he makes these by hand himself. He builds them himself with all the movements and everything. He can tell you way more about watches, but he's a phenomenal dude. He's a camera guy. He's been in the industry for a while. He shoots. Him and his wife are wonderful people. Email him, say you want to watch, and wait for his next drop and his next batch to come out. So we covered a lot of stuff. The main part of that is squeeze the handguard, right? Other than that, we got to know what our goals were, right? So we know that when we fire the gun, we want the sight to lift and return pretty much the same way every time. If I can minimize how much it lifts, great. That buys me a lot of, confidence, or whatever you want to call it. Makes me feel better. However, I don't want it bouncing around left, right, up, down, or all this stuff. It needs to come back to that same point for the most part. We talked about, to make that happen, we gotta have that flat shoulder, flat hold wedge, broke that down. Then we went into those different types of grips, right? If you're unsure about that, play with it at the range. Hold that gun in different ways, all that stuff, and see what it does naturally to your recoil. I don't wanna have to correct it. I want it to naturally happen by the way I hold it causes the gun to act this way. Fair enough? So, other than that, man, that's pretty much it. If you have other stuff that you guys like to do or other tips or anything like that, put it down in the comments, man. We love hearing it. We like seeing it. I mean, we learn a ton from people saying stuff. We also learn a bunch of stuff that we didn't want to know because that doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? And then dumb comments. But those are great too. Let us have them. We'd like to hear them. Other than that, I think that's it, Tom. You got anything else? He shook his head no, by the way. Have fun. See you later. I'm temple indexing my rifle. Any of those little grips that come down off your forearm or foreguard, handguard, to make sure to hold on to or make sure f***ing me. Do it again. Foreguard. Have you ever heard of a foreguard and how it lifts and returns? Me, dude. Oh. Come on, Frank. Come on, Frank. Just land where I can get you, Frank.